Welcome to the Captain's Log, Stardate 6/28/2024. My name is Dan Javen, and this filthy Gornography that you're seeing on the screen right now is not our next Continuum Mission Exclusive crew, but it will be a Gorn. For those of you who were present on, I think it was about 2 months ago, Ben and Joe did a webcast where we were able to mutually create the next new next new Continuum exclusive crew. We know it will be the EV Suit Gorn. It'll be the second Gorn to enter the game, and by far, I think the more interesting of the two. But I'll let you be the judge. We'll get to the stats on that in a moment, but also later on this episode, we're going to keep going with this faction event here. So on our prior Captain's Log, we took a quick look at some of the resources available to you so you can get started with a faction event. We talked about one of the methods to kickstart. My favorite one, the one that I've actively used for years now. There are others out there. We can probably cover those in a future one to give you different kickstarts to choose from. But I think in this episode it's best just to kind of show you how I get my faction events set up and how I run them, maintain them throughout the event to make things a little bit more easier on myself. So first we're going to start though at the big book where I love to start with EV Suit Gorn. So let's check this out here. I'm going to embiggen him a little bit for you. Let's see. There we go. He's looking good. I love this artwork, by the way. Just absolutely fantastic. I like playing with villains, don't you? Like having the ubiquitous Borg Queen last time and now the EV Suit Gorn. It feels great when you can, I guess the concept here is you get to defeat the big boss, the villain, and then you get to play with him, which is fantastic. I love it. Getting 4 copies of the EV Suit Gorn is fair if you want to actually get all that collection value out of him. And he does have a lot of collections here. You're going to want to certainly drop that 5th star after you've earned your first 4 from the Continuum missions. You will need to be in the mid-game just to be able to compete, though. So beware for newer players, these Continuum missions, and painfully so, can be tough to break into. You'll need at least one fully fused legendary card of each of the main skills. It can be done with some purples, but very difficult. And collecting purples is also difficult for early game players. You really have to get some luck and some support from the events to get those purple drops. So maybe we can cover that in a future episode as well. But for now, we're going to consider the EV Suit Gorn to be more of a mid to late game acquisition for you. So this crew, as designed by all of us, is designed to be gauntlet capable, and that's what we're seeing here. So unfortunately, with the upcoming Voyage events, he doesn't look on paper like he's really going to be a contender for that. A few things kind of pointing to that, but primarily take a look at the Voyage score, debuting just under 700 in terms of Voyage score. Now, how that's calculated is it takes into account, of course, the core skills, which are on the low side for a crew like this, considerably low. If we're seeing security scores up around the 2,000 mark for most top tier, maybe tier 3-2 security crew, this crew is severely deficient. But also that Voyage score also takes into account the average proficiency rolls. So what you're seeing is the range here would be the midpoint for each of those range numbers added. And then also the rarity of the skill set, which EV Suit Gorn does deliver a particularly rare skill set. One thing that you may recognize about the skill set while we're talking about it here, let's go to Gauntlet here, and I'm going to take a look at the skill set in terms of, this is a Sec Eng Med crew, and who do we have? Omediclon first and EV Suit Gorn second. So take a look. I mean, just to show you how dominant Omediclon is in the Gauntlet. This crew here featuring 82 best Gauntlet Eng-Sec rolls, 15, and with EV Suit Gorn considerably behind. Omediclon is gated behind the RNG of being able to either get those 3 streaks or place in the Gauntlet events. So, you could play, for weeks, for months, and never see a copy of him. Indeed, if you plan to acquire him at all, as mentioned before, you're going to want to get into the Gauntlets and start playing now, because he will only be featured there probably anywhere between the next 1 to 3 weeks, so get on that now. But it's okay that EV Suit Gorn trails behind, because EV Suit Gorn is able to be one just so long as you have a strong enough roster to have those fully fused in each skill and to be able to equip them so that you can make your way through the epic difficulty of your Continuum missions. Being that final prize for completing all your Continuum missions on epic, it's a fair prize, and this is a great way for people who have been focusing on strength, collection, finishing crew, maybe voyages, to take those same crew and then just by going through the Continuum missions or really working them hard, getting something that'll help you get into Gauntlet. So I really like the direction that this has taken. It's taking one mode of the game and providing a bridge to another. Really helpful for people that just have never earned those Gauntlet exclusives or just don't have enough to feel like they can contend. EV Suit Gorn will help you get those 3 streaks and break into it. So I think for that alone, just absolutely worth looking at. He has a tier 3 rating here, so that's a good start. Of course, owing to the number 10 overall Gauntlet. Weaker Gauntlet rolls in general, but just again the skill set. So Mediclon's skill set, you've got to respect that. The ship ability I'm going to focus on here because this is really interesting to me. So the EV Suit Gorn's ship ability here is called it's 425% damage. That's a rare one, and it stuck out to me immediately as recognizable because of one other crew. And I'm going to search for 425. We're going to see who else has that. And sure enough, we have TKK, Triple Koleth, and Korax. This is another Gauntlet exclusive crew here. And take a look at the initialization, the duration, the cooldown, the cycle time, the uptime. Everything is a carbon copy match, right on down to the -4 evasion penalty. So I actually used TKK. I used Triple Koleth and Korax in my skirmish attack loadout. There are only so many 6-second crew you can jam into a ship that the automatic ship battle feature will fire before we get up to the 8-second mark. So he's actually my 4th fire and usually is enough to take out opposing ships in short time. So EV Suit Gorn, if you have not earned Triple Koleth Korax, and he's very difficult to earn now. He's no longer featured, and with those beholds coming up with so many different Gauntlet exclusive crew, very difficult to target a specific one. So EV Suit Gorn lets you get that exact, very rare ship ability in every single way if you didn't have access to it before. So I think it's I think it's actually a fantastic ship ability. I think it punches higher than this number 39 ranking it gets. But of course it's held back by the fact that it's limit 2, so not really applicable for fleet boss battle usage, and also not that great for arena due to its slowness. You really need to have 6-second firing triggers, and that was at 8-second. So overall, I think they knocked it out of the park. This is a really, really interesting crew. I'm excited to compete for it. Can't wait to see it. We should be seeing this debut in the game as early as next week, and then possibly maybe as late as 2 weeks in the future. Our indications are that this is going to be sooner rather than later, and probably featured very early on in July. So looking forward to that. So now I'm going to do a little bit of a dive into how I like to do my my faction events here. So I've already set up kind of my introductory array here. So from yesterday's Captain's Log, we know that I'm running Terran Empire missions. I just like the components they drop. I'm not that big of a fan of the unique equipment, although this Terran emblem 2-star is a particular one that shows up very often. The rest of them, and the 1-star also, the rest of these are pretty easy to get by other means, or you just don't need that many. But yeah, these 3 components right here, and especially if we're looking at the commons here, you just use so many common polyalloys in Galaxy, and of course these Starfleet uniform patterns are constantly used. So I think it's a great mission to just stock up, and not only for equipping crew, but also just for day-to-day use in Galaxy events and so forth. So I've got all 8 of these open. What do I do? Which ones do I run? How do I allocate my crew? Well, that's where we're going to duck back into Data Core. So we're in Data Core's page here. We're under Tools and Event Planner. And for planning out my event, I'm going to scroll actually all the way to the bottom past these overviews. And we'll take a look here. So I had opened all 8 of those transmissions for the Terran Empire. And now this shows me all of the unlaunched shuttles that I could choose from. And in particular here, we're focusing on the seats. So if we want to use the minimum number of crew possible so we can leave other crew to fly in voyages and so forth, we want to sort by seats and pick the first 3 for sure. So when I'm just running this event routinely, I don't like to use a whole lot of shuttle tokens. I don't like to use really high performance boosts. I'll save those for if I'm pushing in the event. It's great to hoard those. You're going to need to just have more strength than somebody else if you're really pushing for rank, so keeping those for one big push is advisable. So here we have to choose, to maximize our shuttle usage, we have to choose one 4-seater shuttle. So let's take one. We can actually see the overview of how easy they are to staff here. There's a couple of and requirements on each of these. So we'll take a look at which ones will be easier. This med might be difficult. We have an engineering down here and up here, but here this looks great. We have single psi requirement and a single dip requirement. Now the other 2 seem a little more difficult, but actually I think overall this seems like a good bet. So we're going to take Foundling as our 4-seat option. And then down at the bottom, there's the recommend crew button. Now, before you click that, there's a few options that might interest you here. So we have exclude equipped crew. So if you are still solving this week's Continuum missions and you want to leave those crew available at all times, then you can exclude them. I recommend against this. Your Continuum mission energy refreshes every 12 hours. These shuttles are going to be on a 3-hour cycle for you, so if you really need to use up that Continuum energy, just wait for your next shuttle flight to come in, collect it, run the crew you need to run through Continuum missions, and then put them right back on the shuttle again. So I generally leave that unchecked for this. Consider frozen crew is fine if you have roster space or if you want to play the juggling act and unfreeze things that are really crew that are really good. But first, before I do that, I like to leave that unchecked also, and then just take a look at recommendations to see whether I even need to do that. So in this case here, with just my available crew, I'm able to get 99% on all 4 of these shuttles. So I don't need to unfreeze anybody. I'm not going to mess around with that, and we're just going to go ahead and launch right into it. So I've got, it looks like I did get a good recommendation on Foundling here, so we're going to press forward with that. So what I'm going to do is going to go back over to the game here. And we'll find Foundling first. We'll fill that first, why not? And these crews should be towards the top, but when you're playing in the faction event, it tends to boost up the event crew. So in here we got 1701 Bashir first, advised Reunion Spock and Kirk, then Laborer Kirk, and then Varani. So all these 4 should provide a 99% shuttle, and that's what we're seeing in the chance of success. And then the final thing I'll do here is I do like to, in full faction events, use these 3-star boosts. So we discussed where we get these from the cadet missions. Again, good good to save them up. Good to use them in full factions because you have no other way to get the victory points other than really hitting the shuttles hard. In hybrid events, I tend not to use these. I tend to just let them ride, either giving it a skill boost, if I'm under 99%, just giving a little bit of a benefit. But I generally don't use my time boosts on those because I can always pick up any slack if I need to with the Galaxy portion, which I've always prepared for by pre-farming. But here, since it's full faction, I'm going to be throwing these 3-hour time reductions on. I'll go ahead and fill the rest of these shuttles and send them off, and then we'll pick up in a moment. I have 4 sent shuttles. I also have 4 that are not sent. These are awaiting assignment, and they will remain that way. I'm not going to really fill these shuttles up. Again, I'm not pushing for rank here. I'm just looking to kind of maybe get 1 or 2 copies and really just play a strong faction event, but not a pushed faction event. So what we're going to find out a little bit later on, I'm going to wait an hour and a half. I'm going to come back to you and show you what I do after each flight of these optimized shuttles is done, so that we don't have to mess around on the data core each time, and it makes it very easy for you. So we'll be back in just a moment. Okay, we're back, and so I have 4 completed shuttles, 4 unassigned shuttles. So I'm going to show you my little tip so that we don't have to keep going back to the data core. So I'm going to take double cross here, my first shuttle. I'm going to complete that. That frees up my 3 crew that were on there. And then I'm going to scroll over and open the battle. Now I've got the 4 non-preferred, we'll call them, shuttles here, kind of sitting around. And so what we'll be doing is opening up the 8th total shuttle here, and so it's double cross again, the exact same one we just closed. So long as we keep all of our faction shuttles open, and that means sometimes throwing them away. We're not going to run those other 4 that we didn't assign crew to. They're going to expire every 12 hours, but to me it's worth, what is it, like 35 merits, half of a transmission purchase, just to be able to keep this very easy for myself. So I go in here, it will always be the top 3 crew that staffs that shuttle. I'm at the end of the day, so I'm going to put my overnights on, so I'm going to send that out. And let's do it again. It's as easy as this. We complete. We get our 4 crew back on this one. Open up our Terran Empire and go ahead and staff it out. Top crew in each. There's the exact 4 we were looking at. Back to the beginning, we'll complete. Open back up again. Now if I had to do some Continuum energy here, I'd be pausing in between each of these, running my Continuum missions, or maybe just, opening them all up, freeing everybody up, and then, maybe reassembling my dream team with data core's help again. But it's as easy as that. So I've got my overnights all set up. Everybody's going to be back online in 9 hours with double the payouts here. And so I like to do that. I give myself a break, right? I'm not going to wake up every 3 hours in the middle of the night. It's just not worth it to me. So I do like to double overnight. And then the rest of the time during the day, just hour and a half boosts and easy peasy. It usually gets me on any given faction event with just a little bit of pushing at the end to get above the Joneses. That'll usually get me top 750. Sometimes if it's a really competitive event, I'll have to throw in a little bit more, start dipping into the 4-star boost and higher than that. But I don't spend a lithium on these, and I can reasonably expect to get 2 stars of whatever the event rare is if I care to compete. Otherwise here, right now, my event thresholds, after a couple of days of non-optimal play, I haven't really been doing my best here, but where's my rewards? So yeah, I'm just short of the last 3 thresholds here, so certainly by maybe Sunday morning, after that last round of doubles, I think I'll be up at the top threshold. And then we'll see how many copies of Cassie I get. Anyways, thanks for joining me. Appreciate you tuning in every day. If there's somebody in your fleet that can benefit from these videos, go ahead and give a share, distribute it. Let people know that you might have found some helpful content that can level up their game. In the meantime, thanks for joining me. Live long and prosper.